okay, for standing up for my political beliefs against an illegitimate committee in the House that did not have a ranking member and did not have minority counsel. I went to a federal prison for 4 months. Now, Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland thought they were going to do two things. Number one, they were going to shut down the war room and not have that as a voice for the grassroots movement of MAGA in this country. And number two, break me. Well, I think you can see today I'm far from broken. I've been empowered by my 4 months at Danbury Federal Prison. Why was it empowered? Because I was able to listen, to observe, and to learn from working class minorities, young African American men and Hispanic men, and yes, Puerto Rican men, about what their lives are and what the queen of mass incarcerations, which is what they believe that Kamala Harris is. She refuses, and she has refused as border czar, to commence any mass deportations of illegal alien or illegal migrant criminals in this country. And today, President Trump with the angel moms actually had to say, we need to set up a form of restitution to reimburse these folks. Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, as the border czar, has refused to do that and continue on the mass incarcerations. Now, President Trump, and quite frankly, with the visionary leadership at the time of Jared Kushner, President Trump came with the most significant prison reform bill ever created, the First Step Act. And today, 6 years after, and 4 years into the Biden regime, of which Biden in 2020 promised and committed to dramatically decrease the number of incarcerations in federal prisons, and nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. You know, this is criminal negligence by the highest, at the highest levels of BOP, Bureau of Prisons, and the Justice Department. You have particularly minorities, African Americans and Hispanic men and their families being broken, rotting in federal prisons, when the First Step Act is very clear of what's supposed to happen, and all they do is get spun and spun and spun. The system is broken. Bureau of Prisons is broken. This is not about Danbury and not about the individual. I have many good individuals working at Danbury Federal Prison. The system of the BOP, the system of the Justice Department is broken. They have weaponized the Justice Department against a political movement, a conservative grassroots movement that's had President Trump's back, and from the dark days of February, March, and April of 2021 is on the cusp of the biggest political comeback in the history of this nation, led by grassroots people, everyday Americans, including, as we know now from the polling, and the reason I said we're on the cusp of a massive victory, she is failing to connect with minority men, Hispanic and African American men. Now, why is that? They understand what the scam is. They understand that this administration purposely let in millions of illegal alien migrants, illegal aliens, to drive down labor costs. The Federal Reserve said it from the very beginning. We're going to drive down labor inflation by getting more unskilled workers here and putting pressure on the lowest skill sector we have. And they were successful, and they brag about being successful. The minority community understands that. They understand the scam and the con of what Kamala Harris has done. In addition, she has failed to do, for political reasons, the reason the First Step Act is not implemented among minorities is because Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland and Joe Biden in the White House and Nancy Pelosi understand it to be a massive political win for President Trump. And that's why they're failing to do it. They thought they would shut down the war room and take our power away. The show is bigger and more powerful than it's ever been. And please, it's not a podcast. We take the live streaming television show every day and the radio show, and we turn it into a podcast. So my brothers and sisters at CNN, when you say the podcast number is off slightly, right? It hasn't. We were the largest podcast, but we're streaming. We stream on television, and we play on radio and online. And Nancy Pelosi thought a federal prison was going to break me. Well, it empowered me.
God bless you.
It empowered me. I am more empowered today, more focused today, sharper today, in better shape today than I've ever been in my entire life. So Nancy Pelosi, suck on that. The desperation of Kamala Harris and in her campaign is obvious. They went from the politics of joy, and we were the first ones to call it, to darkness and night falls on America, and they pivoted hard. You know why? Her incoherent explanation for what the politics of joy is befuddled everybody. So she had to go back to the same playbook. Trump's a fascist. His followers are not deplorables, they're fascist. That they're a danger to the country. Well, you know who doesn't buy this? Working class people don't buy it. And particularly African American and Hispanic men do not buy it. I had a great opportunity at Danbury, and I want to thank the Education Department of Danbury Correctional Institution for allowing me to teach, yes, civics and government. I had, I think, close to 100 students in 3 different classes. The majority, particularly the later classes, were minority men, African American, Hispanic, lots of Puerto Ricans, lots of Dominican folks in the Dominican Republic. And if you had a chance to read Vanity Fair, the cover story on our populist nationalist beliefs, you can see that it talks about economics. And it talks about the way the system works, the financial system in this country, how it's inextricably linked to the political system. And you can't understand what's going on until you understand how the economy, how the Federal Reserve, how deficits, how they play into the politics of the day. That much that you see on television is just professional wrestling when it comes to politics and is not the thing itself. And I can report to you that these young men, most of whom are nonviolent drug offenders that have, quite frankly, a lot of years in prison. These people came to this with a new awakening, and that is the awakening the American people are going through. The system is not only broken, the system is rigged against the working class of this nation. And I saw at Danbury that we're going to move past the politics of race with an intermediate stop in the politics of gender, which is being forced on everybody right now. We're going to get to what is important, and that's the politics of money. And once we get to the politics of money, there's going to be some fundamental changes in this country. I want to thank you folks for coming. I'm far from broken, and I appreciate you guys attending. And I will tell you, if President Trump's grassroots forces combine as we can combine right now, you're going to see unbelievable numbers next Tuesday. However, the Democrats are not going to give up. They just hired Mark Elias. And you only hire Mark Elias, who I think is the toughest election lawyer in the country. You only hire Mark Elias when you want to go to the mattresses. They understand they can't beat us at the ballot box. We're going to have a reprise of 2020, where they're going to try to do everything humanly possible to nullify Trump's election and delegitimize his second term. And I can tell you right now that the working class people in this country, the middle class people in this country that support Donald John Trump are not going to let that happen. I'll take some questions.
Okay, so please introduce yourself before asking your question.
Hey Steve, good to see you.
Tim Miller.
From the Bulwark. I was listening to your Not a Podcast this morning.
Do you have the pukas on today, or we have the pearls?
I'm clear. No
Pukas or pearls? No pukas
no
or pearls?
or pukas today. Sorry.
This is Tim Miller, one of my favorite guys from MSNBC in the Bulwark. Used to be the spokesman for the Republic. When I met Tim as a younger man, he was the spokesman for the RNC, the old RNC, the establishment RNC of Mitt Romney, not the RNC of Donald Trump. But go ahead, Tim. Question.